The overarching message I think I'd like to leave your viewers is really simple, and that is that AI usage is driving a surge in semiconductor demand, and we simply cannot make enough chips. But let's talk a bit about kind of where we came from before kind of getting into the current events. So I've got a chart here looking at 2024 through August 2025. And what I find interesting here is when we were talking about semis, what we were really referring to is one stock, NVIDIA. So that, up fourfold during that time. The semiconductor index, the broad collection of stocks, rose, but was really just in line with the S&P. So if we now take a look at August and going forward, we see a striking reversal here. Now NVIDIA has stopped outperforming. It's working alongside S&P. But the green line here, the rapid uptick in this broader semi index is very much a big change from what we've seen before, and something we could talk about today a little more.
Yeah, I'll start digging in there. First, we'll start with NVIDIA and why it has stalled. Is it simple a case it just couldn't go on that path forever? Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's a few things. I would say kind of size, share, and skeptics. So what do I mean here? Size. So NVIDIA, once you reach a market cap of 4 to 5 trillion, I think it becomes a little tougher for investors to kind of digest the growth outlook. Still very solid, but very much tougher than, to see an NVIDIA, say, doubling, tripling from there than a smaller market cap. The other piece is market share. So we know there are other participants in the market. NVIDIA still has 90% share in this accelerator market. But Broadcom, through their Google work, is a real participant now. AMD is coming up with a very viable competitive product to NVIDIA that's going to come out this year. And so when you get this dynamic of market share shift that comes into the narrative, that's another area that could weigh on the stock. And then third is the skeptics. A lot of talk around AI bubbles. We've had high-profile investor commentary out there kind of talking about NVIDIA and really just questioning the growth outlook altogether. And so I think those things combined have slowed the outperformance, which has been quite remarkable actually the last couple of years. Right, so that's the NVIDIA story, but as your charts were showing us, it's more than just about NVIDIA. Now let's talk about what's going on beyond that name.
Sure, so I've got another chart here kind of breaking down the semiconductor index and some of the non-NVIDIA performers. The top stock there, top line there in blue is Micron. Micron produces memory, and memory has really just been on fire. Interesting dynamic here. This is a subsector that has traditionally been what I would perceive as lower quality. Over a prolonged period of time, doesn't generate a lot of free cash flow. Pricing tends to go through boom bust cycles. But here, as we sit here today, memory prices have literally gone off the charts. In some cases, triple what a maximum price would have been in the past. And this ties back to AI as well. So we've seen, I think, the memory producers in aggregate were caught a little bit flat-footed, I think, in terms of capacity increases. And the reason is this real surge in AI demand that I'd mentioned. The inferencing side, which is really just the usage. So if you think of like the Sora, video generation product that people are using and other such applications have driven a substantial increase in demand. And so there's questions here around sustainability, but of course, as long as prices are off the charts, then so can the stock be.
Has there been an underinvestment in capacity, considering all this big boom in demand we had for AI and we're hearing about these shortages? Have we just not put the money into the space?
You're right. There's been an underinvestment in capacity, and that actually ties into one of the other names on the chart that we see is ASML. This might be a lesser known stock, perhaps, but it's a European champion. They essentially make equipment to produce semiconductors. These fast, multi-$100 million machines essentially look like printing
presses, I suppose, to print the chips. And to your point, this specific subsector of semiconductors, which is the semi-cap equipment side, has been underinvested. Part of it is the memory. They've not been adding capacity. Part of it is the logic side. In Taiwan, TSMC has not been dramatically increasing capacity. And so the way I think about it here on equipment is, we're approaching, for the last number of years, we've spent about $100 billion a year as an industry on equipment. But now with semi sales quickly approaching $1 trillion, I think that number could be easily 50% higher. And we're starting to see that come into the share prices as well.
Okay, so that's a nice overview of where we were, where we are right now. Where could things go from here? Some people, will start saying that perhaps the best days are behind the space.
Yeah, good question. Well, I firmly believe that the AI trade is still intact, but we are seeing a broadening out. Concerns around an AI bubble, I think have been dispelled somewhat, and I'll go into a couple of things. But even these other subsectors I've mentioned, besides NVIDIA, they're really AI driven. It seems to be driving the space overall. Some kind of data points, if you think about what NVIDIA's CEO has told us, there's $3 to $4 trillion in infrastructure to replace in the coming, call it 4 or 5 years. And, NVIDIA's current data center revenue is around $300 billion. So a lot of upside there. These companies, NVIDIA, Broadcom, are going to grow over 50% this year. Just across the semiconductor ecosystem, we're just seeing a ramp up in spend. Another data point is the hyperscalers. So, and we just heard from Meta last night, raising the CapEx. And I think their numbers, they might be growing 70% this year. And so we're starting to hear about real ROI, real use cases that have kind of pushed back on the AI bubble narratives.
When we think about, it's been about a year since DeepSeek, right? What lessons did we learn from that? Because that really rattled the market, and now nobody talks. We sort of moved on from it.
Yeah, that was a painful time to be actually covering the semiconductor space, because it just introduced a lot of debate as to whether all of this investment is worthwhile. But I think what we did learn from DeepSeek, which essentially had created a model that ran much lower cost than we're all spending. But I think the key message there is just this insatiable demand for compute. And if the cost comes down, falls, then we're going to simply use more of it. And I think that's being proven out.